Okay. All right, let's jump back. I'm going to learn by product. So I'm going to look for my calendar. Okay. And again, we're going to jump right into the start from scratch and get started. Again, we have 5 sections. Okay. So this isn't going to take too long. It's about 10 minutes. And we'll start with scheduling events. Okay. So I'm going to actually just jump over into our calendar. And the way I get to my calendar, is right from Gmail. There is a little thing that we call the app picker. Okay. It's 9 little boxes that form a box on the top right. Chris said that we should have a cooler name, but we don't. So if you click this, this is going to bring up all of the apps that you have available to you. Okay. And on the second row, there's an icon that says calendar. Go ahead and click that. This will take you up to your calendar. First thing that it'll do, it'll say, here's what's new in calendar. Gmail on your calendar, reservations from flights, restaurants, automatically added from email. Again, you can change this in settings, right? I like it. I use OpenTable all the time to get tables, and it'll automatically throw like my reservation, all that stuff directly into my calendar. As I mentioned before, with flights, it puts it up. I rented a car from Budget, and that automatically showed up with my confirmation number. So it works out pretty well. There's also some new mobile apps, both for Android and iPhone, so check those out. Again, you can download it and get it right here. I'll just say I got it. This brings me into my calendar, right? And again, just some real quick housekeeping. You may be a stickler in terms of what you want this to look like, right? So in this case, I'm on week view. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay? You may only want 4 days. Or you want a whole month. Or you just need to look at your day. And this is the agenda view, right? So it's going to kind of list what your agenda is for the day. I'm typically pretty comfortable just looking at it for the week. Okay? Now, to create an event, there's 2 ways to do it. Okay? I can click this create event here and then put the dates in, or I can actually just go to the date, right? And so, if I want something from 8 until 12, I'm just holding down my left button and I'm selecting how long I want this meeting to be. Okay? So maybe I want it to go down until 12 o'clock. And when I let go, I can choose whether I want this to be an actual event, if I want it to be in a reminder, or these are what we call appointment slots. So, these could be used for teachers, during study halls, or, maybe it's after school if they want to offer some extra lab help, okay? They could actually put these appointment slots out there. Those appointment slots will then be available to the students in that class, and the students can actually register for that. That's a little complicated, but I'm going to just start with an event, and we'll give it a name, and we'll call this the MTLSD demo. Okay? And I'm going to I could just real quickly create that without any details, but what I'll do is I'll click Edit Event, because I want some real specific details around this. Okay? So, first thing is, maybe, when I was creating this, I let go of the button too quick, and I noticed that it stopped at 11:30. Okay? And I want this to go till 12. 4 full hours. So I'll go ahead and click 12. I update it. You don't have to worry about time zones. Google actually manages all the various time zones. So if there's someone that you're working with that's from the West Coast, it'll automatically manage those 3-hour differences between the 2 time zones. Again, you can do these all day, right, where it'll block your whole day off. Or if it's repeating, so every Thursday from 8 to 12, right, we can actually repeat this meeting on this specific day. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enter a location. And so I know this is going to be at Mount Lebanon High School, so, as I start typing this in, you can actually see it's starting to pull up addresses from Google, right? So I click Mount Lebanon School District, and that actually generates a map for me. So like, for example, if I send this off because I'm having administrators from different schools come to our school for this conference, when it sends them the invite, right in the invite, it's going to give them a map with door-to-door directions to get to us. Right? It's a really cool way to do that. All right. The other cool thing that we do is we can add a video call. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click Add That. So in this case, maybe it's a conference call and it's a couple administrators from a couple different schools, and some people might not be able to make it when I give them that map, right? They might say, oh, that's too far, I'm all the way from Philadelphia. In this case, we're going to bring that person in through a video conference. And as soon as that meeting starts, right within our calendar, my calendar that I'm using, as well as theirs, they click the link to it, and we all get joined together in this video conference, right? No codes, no nothing to worry about. Just go to your calendar, click the link, you're in the conference, okay? And if I have multiple calendars, I can kind of choose the calendar, okay? I just created a demo one here. And so this might be admin meeting to demo a new product, okay? Now, if there's people that I want to add, maybe I want to add Ross, and as soon as I start typing, his email address comes up. I can click enter. Maybe I want to have Chris, and I'll add him. And if I click on rooms, if you notice over here, there's all these reservable rooms that are inside your high school, right? So in this case, I want the high school conference room C, and now that's added in there, okay? If I had projectors or anything else like that, laptop carts, I could add those from here. And then those get reserved. So all of the resources in your district actually now become reservable items, okay? Each get a calendar. Now, problem with creating just, this meeting without actually talking to Chris or talking to Ross, I don't know if they're actually going to be available. So I could go through all this trouble building this invite, and they're not even available. So there's a little button here that says find a time. And what this does is I know when I go to create this meeting from 8 to 12, I'm free, but Chris is busy. He's got, a discussion that he's got going on, right? He's busy. And I know Ross is busy because he's going to be cleaning up some Gmail stuff, right? So that's just not going to work. So what I could do is I could say, you know what? There's this gap between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, right? Everyone's available. And then I'm going to go ahead and keep that, okay? So now I know that there's no reason they should be denying my request, okay? Now, before I go on, I can actually embed content inside this invite. So I'm going to go ahead and say, look, we're going to have a demo, but I want you guys to read up on this and prepare for it. So I'll go ahead and attach that PDF, because that's what we're going to talk about during our demo. Okay. If I need another attachment, I can go ahead and add it. And I'm very forgetful, so I always like notifications. So I want one, 10 minutes before, but I also want one a day before, right? And I want an email notification. And we'll make this one day. Oops. And we'll change it from minutes to days. So I'll get an email before, and I'm going to get a pop-up notification 10 minutes before my meeting, right? And in my calendar, I want to show myself as busy, okay? And I want this to be the calendar default, meaning the visibility is private, okay? If I wanted to make this a public event, I can make it public, or if I wanted it private, then that's fine. But calendar default means only the people that are on my team, meaning people at Mount Lebanon School District, can actually see my calendar, right? All my fellow teachers and administrators. All right. And now that I got that done, if I look a little bit further, I could say, you know what? Chris always changing the dates, right? He's always going to try to suggest some other one. So I could, put modify event. He can modify it, right? So I'm on his team. And then once I'm done, I go ahead and save. And it'll say, do you want to send these guest invitations? So what this will do is this will send us an email. I'm going to go ahead and send it. And those two guys will both get an email.
Because you hit on that email guest.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of just-
And then as they respond, I can see it if I open this back up in a minute. I can see that Chris nor Ross has responded. Right? I'm a little jaded about that. And I can also see the high school conference room is available.
Where did you send it from? You sent it from, when you had the block, it asked you.
It asked me, do you want to send them?
Send.
So I didn't even write an email. It just sent it based on all the information. And so in a minute, those guys can respond to that. And as soon as they respond, this is then populating here for me. Okay? And that's how you make these calendar events, right? So I'm going to go back to that calendar. It could be that, you know what, I got the time wrong, and I need to change that to another time. I could actually just grab this and move it over to 2:30. And it says, would you like to send updates? Yeah? I could send them or not send them or cancel it, and I'll go ahead and send them. So now, I've moved the meeting. They're probably going to cancel because they're busy at that time. But nonetheless, I wanted to see, you can actually just move this anywhere on your calendar. If I want to move this over to Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go ahead and not send that one because they're going to get a whole bunch of emails. But, that's how that whole thing works. And I could also realize that, it's not going to happen. This meeting's not going to work. I could come up here and I could delete this altogether. Got it? Now, the other thing I can do is I can duplicate my event. Okay? And I can move this for another day. And I'm not going to send it. But I brought this, event and I duplicated it. Because a lot of times there might be things where you have, kids in study group sessions or whatever, and, it gets pushed back, so you could duplicate it, move it to another day. Okay? And then if I'm done with it, I'm done with it. So you can move these things around. Does everybody understand how to create events? Okay. Good job. Okay, so we created an event. We've invited people. We reserved rooms and resources. We've chosen some times. We've saved and we've updated them.
Someone sends you an event.
So Chris, are you on right now?
Mm-hmm.
Can you create an event and send me?
Yep.
And I get that event, just so you know. Oh, so Chris tentatively accepted it. Ross did accept it. Thank you, Ross. And I know who's coming to my meeting. Okay. He's going to create an event, and I'll see what that looks like inside my email.
Thank you for defining.
What's that?
I actually clicked remove just to see what that would do.
It says declined on my end.
The Exchange was tricky. Exchange would let me remove it without sending a notice.
Oh.
Because I used to get vendors all the time that would send me 10-minute calendar appointments. I'm like, the nerve. I just delete and I just send it to them. Alright, so I still have to invite you. And save.
Okay.
So,
So it'll be here momentarily. Okay, there it is. So I got an invitation. This is what it looks like. So it tells me when it's happening, where it's at. So I know it's in F207 Tech Conference Room, right? Who it's with, Chris. And I look at my agenda for the day, right? So I know 3 p.m. is pretty wide open for me. I'm actually pretty good. And all I'd have to do is I can say yes, maybe, or no. Okay? So I'll just go ahead and accept it. And now, when I get back to my calendar, it populates here. It's on my calendar.
So you said yes, it's sent.
It's on all of our calendars, yes.
and then I got an email that said accepted.
Yep. And it's a really nice way, especially in an organization of this size, to one, have calendar sharings, but two, to be able to interact in that way, by scheduling resources and times, updating calendars, kind of automatically. It's a very powerful tool. Now, let me show you one more thing. If you click on My Calendars, okay, a couple things to note here is if I click this drop-down box, I may want to create a calendar. I mentioned before I coach, okay? My people I work with, they don't care that I'm coaching, okay? I got basketball practice tonight. So I could create a new basketball calendar, and I'm going to share it just with kids that are on my team and the parents, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click Create New Calendar. And I'll call this my basketball calendar. Right? And I'll give it a description. 7th and 8th grade basketball. And it says share this calendar with others, right? So in this case, I could either make it public, right, because I want people to see it, or I could share it specifically with certain specific people, right? So in this case, let's just assume Ross has a son, and his boy plays on my team. So I'll send it to Ross. Okay, and then I'll also send it to Chris, because he has our center as his son. And the permission settings are over here, right? So I got to be very careful. I could just allow them to see events, or I could allow them to make changes and manage sharing. So again, this afternoon when we have secretaries in here, or if you have any secretaries where you want to delegate to allow them to make calendar events for you, you could actually go in and share your calendar with that secretary and allow them to make changes and manage sharing. In this case, I don't want them to do that, right? I just want them to see all event details. Okay? And that's how that would work. And once I'm done, I'll go ahead and click Create Calendar. Let me just change that. Delete those guys. Okay, I just want him to see all event details. It's really strange. Hang on 1 second.
You know why I was doing that?
Why?
Look, Chris and I are super.
Super admin. Okay. If it were someone else, those options would be selected.
Oh, that's what it is. We found that out before.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, that's how that works. And now these guys will then get that calendar in their calendar. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Calendar. And you'll see there will be, these calendars that will then pop up. And there's my basketball calendar. And again, anytime I want to create a basketball event, right, I'm going to switch that from my main calendar to my basketball calendar, right? We'll call this practice. And I don't even have to add a guess because they all have this calendar, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and save it.
This is a big shift from before.
And then I click basketball. And see, that's the thing. I don't have to put this all on there. And furthermore, the only people that see this basketball calendar are me and my team and the parents. But this my name, Cloudcast here, right? That would normally be, John Pascasio, right? But we made this account just as a demo account. So this would say, Ross or Chris or whoever it might be. That's your main personal profile, and that's shared with your team that you work with, okay? Personal ones are not shared. They're specific to you and whoever you give permissions to use. Does that make sense? And you can layer these on there. Now, there's these other calendars. So if there's a coworker's calendar I want to add on here, like Ross, I could click Ross, and all Ross's stuff's going to pop up on that calendar. Does everyone see that? This is nice if you have a team of people that you need to kind of group all their calendars together. You're able to do that. So if I want to undo this and I just see mine, that's all I got. But if I want to load it back on there because I'm planning my week out, it's a great way to kind of manage schedules of people around you.
How do you share your calendar with somebody else, or have somebody else share theirs with you?
That's a good question. So if it's not shared with you already and you ask them to share it, you just go to the actual calendar in the calendar list, okay? You click the drop down and there'll be share this calendar. Take a look at that. See it?
Under my calendars, or?
Yeah, so like you actually have to hit the little button. It'll be a drop down that appears. See it? And then you click share this calendar. So when I click that, that's where it allows me to share it out with other people. And again, these are the levels of permissions, right? If it's someone that you want to manage your calendar for you, give them make changes and manage sharing. If you want someone to just make changes to events but not be able to change the sharing, or if you want them to just see the details, you may have a superintendent that says, you know what, I don't want everybody seeing exactly what's on my schedule. I just want them to see if it's free or I'm busy. And then you can come down here and just click see only free busy. That way, you know, when I pulled up Ross's calendar, I actually saw what Ross was doing. He may not want that, right? And so he may change that to see only free busy because it's shared with me. Get it?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. All right. So you can view and restore deleted events. So like if you've accidentally, you know, thrown something in the trash, right? You just go to the calendar. You open the calendars list, hover over the calendar, and then you'll click the down arrow for the trash. So let's just say we delete something here. Let's get rid of Ross's calendar. And maybe I'm going to delete this. Okay? I'll delete and update guests, and it's gone. Okay? So, you know, I do have the ability to go back to that calendar. Oops. And view trash. Right? Everyone see that? So I clicked the drop down right next to it that appeared. View trash. And then these are the things that I've deleted. So I could just click this and restore deleted events. Got it? I'll give you a second to take a look at that. All right. So I'll restore it. We'll go back. And then it's back there. Okay? That's how you restore them. All right. Adding reminders, right? So there's two different kinds of reminders. There's event, you know, notifications. Those are the reminders that I showed you before where, you know, we create an event and, you know, it's going to give you an alert, whether that's an email or a notification. But there's things called personal reminders. These are like your to-do lists, okay? So I could anywhere go ahead and click an event and I'll put a reminder in here. So this could be, you know, remind me to take the garbage out. And I know it's going to be, you know, very early in the morning and I don't get home till late, so I'll do it at 3:30 a.m. And I'm going to repeat this because I get garbage done every week. Right? So we'll repeat it. 5 occurrences, or in this case, I'm going to do it 52 weeks. And I'll click done. Create.
How did you get to that event again?
So I find anywhere that I want to put it on my calendar. So let's say it's Thursday at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I just click it.
Okay,
And then it says, do you want an event, a reminder, or an appointment slot?
gotcha.
Okay? So I just clicked reminder, and I built it from there. Now, I just want to show you this. See how there's a little button right here? Okay? See where the finger is? It's like marking it as done. Once I'm done with it, I can mark it as done, and it goes up into the list as done. Completed event. Make sense? Now, if you have an Android phone, Android has a product called Google Keep. And anything you create in Google Keep automatically gets put in there as well. So it's a nice little to-do list. One more thing I'll mention, back in your email, there's a thing called tasks, right? And so like these might be little events, things that I need to do. So take out garbage, feed dog, dry cleaning, whatever, okay? So I can make as many of these lists as I want, and I can put due dates by these, right? So I'll just go ahead and open this out, and so
Did you find that?
Where do you find tasks?
so see where the mail drop down is?
Yeah.
There's contacts and tasks. Everybody see that? Okay. So I might want to do this for Thursday, and I'm done. I just go back to my list. And so I put a due date by that. Now when I go back to my calendar, if I scroll down here, and I'm going to switch to tasks, I now have a take out garbage with a checkbox. See that? So that's going to appear on my calendar as well. Does that make sense?
Where did you find tasks on the calendar?
So in your calendars,
I've got reminders.
yeah, reminders. Click on reminders. Because reminders and tasks are the same thing. You could say switch to tasks. It's all about what do you want to call it. You can call it tasks or reminders.
So I don't have to use pussy notes anymore to tell you I'm going to do that.
And I think tasks, by the way, I'm an advocate of tasks because inside, you do it right from your Gmail, okay? You can have multiple lists. So let me just open this up and show you. So there's a plus button. You can add more, but right here on the far right, I create a new list. And I usually do it by like week, right? If it's like week 1 of school. And I'll say okay. And then I, these are tasks that I have for this week. And I can always toggle between these, right? So now when I go back to action, there's, I can move things up or down. I can sort it by due date. I can, clear lists out. And let me give you another example. I'll create a new list. Week 2. Now when I go back in here, there's week 1 or week 2, so I can toggle between these. See what I'm saying? And anything I put a date to, it's going to show up inside my calendar. Actually, it's a little confusing between reminders and tasks, but it's because there was a new product that was built called Google Keep. They call it reminders, and so that's how that whole thing worked. Tasks was the original one, and it works seamlessly. Okay?
Because I'm trying to make a task.
Yep.
I put week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I type the task? Right in that.
Right in the box.
Instead of week 1, I type the task.
Yeah. So let me type it for you.
Where
So
does it go?
so make lesson plan.
Okay.
Okay? And if I need to put a due date by it, I'm going to click the arrow, right? And then, maybe make lesson plans due on the 14th. Any notes, FOIL technique. Okay. And if there's maybe I should have put that in week 2. I can actually move it to week 2, which I'm not going to. And that's it. There's no save button. Just go back to your list. So now if I go back to my calendar and I switch this to tasks, that will populate here. I gotta remember what day I put it on. Let's see. Make lesson plan, Thursday, July 14th. Okay. And let's add those. It's not showing up right now for some reason. It's being difficult, but it does. Oops. Okay, never mind. There we go. All right. All right, we'll move on. So you can set up default event notification settings, right? So if you go back into your calendars and you click the gear button and click on settings, there's a whole bunch of settings here, okay? And so you can kind of scroll down through and look at these different things, but there are ways inside the calendar, if you click on the calendar tab, to set your default notifications. So from my main calendar, I can create these global notifications and how they work. So I'm going to go ahead and click Edit Settings, and for every notification, just by default, maybe I want an email one day before. Okay, and if I want to add more notifications, like I want a notification 10 minutes before. Okay, and then I come back and I save. And that way, for any event that gets created for my main, calendar, it is going to give me those various notifications. So I'll get an email and I'll get a notification. All right. Let's scroll down a little bit. So add, change, or remove event notifications. Again, I can just go down here and let's just say from the calendar, I created an event. We'll open it up. And so we have these notifications that are here, right? You can just go X next to them. And that way no one's going to get a notification.
Where's that again?
It would be on an event that you created. So you'd have to create an event. Okay? And then after you create the event, you would then go ahead and put notifications in. And if you wanted to delete those notifications, you'd actually just click delete next to them. You understand? Can we do it one more time? Yeah? Okay. So I got an event right here, right? I put notifications in there. Right? So I'm going to open this up. And I don't want to be notified. Maybe I have a meeting before, right? I don't want it to bother me. So I don't want an email or, I don't want a desktop notification. There's an X by both of these. So if I want to delete them, I just delete it. I click X. See that? Gone. Save. Done with. All right. Let's jump back. Okay. We talked about reminders and tasks, right? Those are really the same thing. Okay, we talked about sharing. And again, just for the sake of it, if there's any calendar like that basketball calendar that I need to share, I click the down button next to it, and then I click share this calendar, and then I specify who I want to share it with by entering their email, right? And I'm also going to say, what type of, do they manage it or they just see it, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. You might want to view other people's calendars. And I showed that before, but let's just do it again. So if I want to see Ross's calendar, I want to see Chris's calendar. What's your name? What's your email address?
SCALLAHAM.
Oops. Sorry.
SC. Oh, Sandra.
SC.
ALLAHAM. There it is.
Okay. So if I want to see your calendar, right, you're in the Google Training right now. I've been able to populate on my screen by clicking under the other calendars, add a coworker's calendar. I just type your email address in, and it's going to populate. If I don't want to look at it anymore, I unclick it. Okay? If I want to look at it, I click it. So think of this as a slate that you can layer multiple calendars on.
But I didn't give you permission to do that.
Well, you work here.
So
That's what this is all about. This is about
I can see
sharing.
Joel's on mine if I
Yeah,
want.
the whole point is that we want all administrators to see each other's calendars so you know where you're at.
But
So if I'm scheduling,
I'm
let's say
like
I'm
a
your,
secretary.
let's say I'm your boss.
Okay.
Okay? I need to know where you are, right? So your boss, just think of it that way. Anyone that's your superior is going to know exactly where you are and what's on your calendar. Okay? A student may not know your calendar, but a boss, a superior would. Okay?
Aren't the calendars though supposed to be busy only unless?
You can do for your busy, yes.
That's what we actually.
Because you have admin?
Yeah, I think we
Right,
turned
is that
on
why he is?
free busy, like
Yeah.
so people will see,
Right.
and then if you want to share specific details. like
Exactly.
sharing rights.
Could we make Comcast a super?
He's a super admin.
I'm a super admin. That's why I see it all.
Okay.
Now, what I will say is, usually in like departments, we should talk about this further. But for like your OUs, we could actually make policies per OU. So like if you're in an admin capacity, like if you're someone superior, you should be able to see everyone that falls underneath your purview. Okay. But yes, free busy will work. Okay.
Sandra, your coworker didn't see that you were Friday off, they just see that you were busy on Friday. See how you can see up there, it
So
says
all the
Friday
science
off,
department can see my calendar now,
that you are busy.
that I am busy.
Yeah.
But not with what?
Not why or what you're doing, but they know that Friday, you're on.
Correct.
So I don't have to email them anymore telling them I'm taking
Nope.
Nope.
this day
You
off.
can just say, yeah, you can just tell them.
I
on
just
your
have to
calendar.
put it on the calendar.
Yeah, as long as you have it on your calendar, if they wanna know where you are.
How do
they
you
can-
look at that calendar?
And how about you?
How do
You're
you-
looking for me.
I would just type it in. Just
And you can see because you're my
The
superior.
little things on the left.
because I'm in this network.
Same domain.
We're all in the same company, organization, domain name. So I can look at Dr. Steinhardt, you can look at Dr. Steinhardt and see that he's busy.
Oh,
But not with
no,
our
because it wasn't like that before.
No,
When I was in the
correct.
supervisor's
Absolutely
office,
not.
it was,
no, but now that, this gives us that opportunity.
oh, okay.
That wasn't really like a capability with Microsoft in that way, right? Of the layering of calendars in this kind of way. This is kind of a novel new idea, and really what it's about to do is, put everybody on the same page. I mean, the whole process of emailing, I'm not going to be here. That's crazy, right? I mean, it's 2016, right?
So wait, should their names show up on the left side?
Absolutely.
Well, okay, wait a minute,
If you've added them already.
okay. Maybe I didn't have it.
Is there something else maybe you're confused with? I could kind of go over one more time.
I think the difference too is because our accounts are super admins, they show up under my calendars. I think for them it's gonna show up under other calendars at the bottom.
Yes.
I put somebody under other calendar, it's not coming up.
We got to scroll down and look for them.
Oh, there she is, okay, I'm sorry.
All right. So we all got how to view other people's calendars, right? Search other people's calendars, put the email address in. You can even type their first name and last name if you don't know their email address, and it'll come up. Okay? Create a team calendar. This is like that basketball calendar that I created. Remember I showed you that? I'll just do it one more time. So I'm going to go to my calendars, create new calendar, call it team calendar. And I can give it a description, a location, and I can choose to share this with other people, right? So I usually just share it specifically with certain people. You can share it with everyone at Mount Lebanon if you'd like, right? So it could be a school district calendar, or it could be very specific. So in this case, I'll put Ross in there. And then once I've done that, I click Create Calendar, and we got a team calendar. He can make changes to it. I can make changes to it. We're on the same page. Okay. Good use for departments, right? Teams, sports, clubs, maintenance, right? Get everybody on the same page. All right. I showed you calendar view. We also talked about colors. Now, we're pretty much at the end here. So just like inside Google Apps, there are calendar tips. Yes,
I
do you have
have
a question?
for you. So what I like to do with it is be able to create, schools don't work like businesses where 8 to 8:30 doesn't mean anything. I need periods. So one of the things I've asked a couple times is, can we put overlays or can we create calendars where they are structured to follow our period schedule? So that from not, what I don't know what it is, 8:15 to 9:02, that is a block that can be blocked off. Because again, especially for teachers, periods don't matter much, and I know like what my thought is, when I want to do observations, I want teachers to be able to go in and pick, based on my calendar when I'm busy and not busy, when they would like me to come in. But again, if it had periods, it'd be easier for teachers, I think.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
So no, out of the box, no. So we have an API, so at Hempfeld, I work at Hempfeld. We've integrated it with our student information system. So when we run our master scheduler at the year, it'll actually break it out by period. Okay, and so every period gets listed on a specific time frame. There's an API if you guys want to go through that process and integrate. I don't know what that student information system you guys use. What is it? Oh, no, I don't know that you'll be able to do a Power School, but if you can get if you can get them to expose an API, you should be able to write something like that.
Okay. What
But
about
out of the box, no.
What about calendars for the computer lab or those things? Again, it has to be 8 to 8:30, 8 to 9. You can't do periods.
So they have a thing called daylight hours. It's an experimental lab. It's not supported, but you can actually specify those hours. But I never recommend that because any of those labs specific to calendars may or may not work. So you wouldn't want to say, yes, you can do it, and something breaks, then you're going to be mad at me. The standard answer is, this is a calendar, right? Regardless of a school.
But even
if you
that
go to school.
API you were talking about, all that does is put their schedule onto a Google Calendar with real times.
Correct.
It doesn't turn Google Calendar into a period-based.
Absolutely not. No.
It's just the flip. It tries to work on teachers' mindsets. first,
Exactly. Exactly.
Which could be, wow, it's challenging when you have all different schedules.
Yeah. So, I mean, to do it right, you have to actually integrate with your master scheduler, right?
But I mean, like the snow delay day, that would jack us all up.
Yeah, so like in our system, what we've done is we have bump days. So every time we have a snow day, we bump the calendar, the full school calendar, and then it bumps everything forward one day. It's a pain in the butt, actually, but I wouldn't use it in that way. I mean, unless you want to get really deep into that stuff. At the end of the day, I mean, how are you doing it now?
Don't want to talk about it.
Okay. All right.
The most ridiculous, like, I mean, it's emails, right now I'm using Google Sheets, which I'd love to do is do a sheet. I have to go through Sheets, and I set up my 5-day week, and I have to block out based on looking at my calendar when I'm not available. So it's double the work for me, but on the teacher's end, they can see what period
Gotcha.
I'm available. So I created it looking like periods that this time I'm available.
I see.
But the paint, like I'd love for it to overlap and be an overlay so that my busy just comes through. I don't have to go through, and whenever I add something to my calendar, it instantly on that sheet updates the same way, so it shows that it's busy in that time frame.
I'll get with you afterwards. There's probably a way to do what you want to do.
Okay.
I mean, there's an API that exists that you can make that happen. It's just a little bit of work.
Okay.
Okay.
Text up to it. So.
Okay. But these are the tips. I won't go through much of this. You know, one of the things that I will show, let's see if we can find it. Oh, it's not on here, but I can get you information that'll help you out. That might be a way to do it. Not exactly how you want to do it, but you can actually block off. You can create an individual calendar for each one of those periods, and you could block all other hours out and limit the calendar to that 1 hour. And that would work for what you want to do.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk about it.
In other words, you could only schedule it for that hour,
Mhm.
right? That's what you want to do, essentially.
Right, when I'm available. When
Yeah. And so there's a way to do that. Okay. Any questions about calendar? I know we covered a lot this morning. I will, leave my email address if you guys ever have any questions for me. You can obviously contact me through Ross or Chris, and we'd be glad to help. But luckily, you guys have a great IT staff here that, quite frankly, I feel like Ross knows equally as much about this stuff as I do, and Chris as well. So I think you guys are in good hands. And thank you.